Welcome to another episode of It's a Long Beach Thing. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Say that 5 times fast. And like us on Facebook on It's a Long Beach Thing on our Facebook group. We have a very cool show for us today. I have my old dear friend, Andrea James, that we went to high school with at St. Anthony High School. Andrea, how
Go
are you
Saints.
today?
I'm great. Thanks for inviting me, Paul. It's just really cool to be able to catch up after all these years and talk about our life experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, first off, you can tell everybody how cool I was in high school, right?
He was like the coolest. I think we have a picture together in the yearbook of like the two coolest kids in the school. It was me and Paul. So obviously,
Well, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I was going to bring that up. We got most gullible. Can you believe that we got most gullible?
I don't know how that possibly happened.
You can't pass anything past me. I am not gullible.
I'm blonde. I blame it on that. Hey,
Yeah. I don't know what happened, but you know what? It's nice to be what is it, nominated or nice to be noticed, I guess is the right word.
it's the little things that get us farthest in life, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So obviously, you going to St. Anthony's, you have a strong path in the Long Beach area. So talk to us about your association with this great city.
Well, like Paul says, born and raised Long Beach. It's deep in my heart and soul. I went to St. Anthony's High School. I went through all my schooling in Long Beach and around Long Beach. And then I went off for a few years and lived in Hawaii, but then came back to Long Beach. And I'm actually a working artist. And I brought my art to Long Beach, and I've been able to express myself and show my love for my city through my art. And that's kind of why I'm here talking today.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get to the art, but I want to know the path here a little bit. So you graduate from St. Anthony's, you hung out with one of the coolest guys ever, Paul, and then you go
We
on your
actually, I
way.
think we sat next to each other at the art table. Like I have vivid memories at St. Anthony's in the art room, and we were like at the same table.
Yes, I have remembrance of that too. And the thing is, it's been a long time, and we were all in our own little world. But I don't remember you being the artist that you are today. So it's kind of
It's funny
amazing,
because the art teacher said the same thing when I contacted her. So
really.
yeah, it was something like I always arted. It was something that like I did in my spare time. I was always really crafty. But I never thought that like I could actually make it as an artist. I always heard like, oh, I'm a professional artist. I'd be like, that's pretty cool to be able to say that, but that's not me. I would never be able to do that. So I kind of took other paths after high school. I went on to college. I started teaching. I went into special education and I taught special education for about 7 years. And I was teaching kids with like behavior problems, emotional dysregulation, things like that. So kept me busy and it was always entertaining and rewarding. But I always had this like deep feeling that I wanted to be teaching art. I wanted to be making art. And actually, our teacher at St. Anthony's is really the one that inspired me because I remember being in that class and being like, that lady has the coolest job. I want that job. So it was always like in the back of my head. So finally, when I lived in Hawaii for 12 years, and over there I was teaching high school art, and it was like the dream job. Like, who doesn't love teaching art in Hawaii? You know, the kids over there are great. And I got teamed up with an organization called Powwow. And Powwow is a mural festival, an international mural festival that travels to 50 different cities all over the world. But it started in Honolulu. So basically, I started getting my students involved because as the art teacher, I had to have some correlation. And it was such a cool organization that I really decided I wanted to be a part of it. I started volunteering over in Hawaii, and what volunteering would involve is like painting giant walls white and doing the dirty work that the real artists didn't want to do. But hey, like I wanted to get my hands dirty. So started doing that. And then in 2015, Powwow decided to come to Long Beach. And Long Beach was one of the 50 cities that they had decided that they were going to be a part of. And it was like all my dreams had come true. Like the organization, my hometown. They were coming here. So even though I was still living in Hawaii, I would come back to Long Beach in the summer for the festival and help with the festival. So eventually, when I moved back to Hawaii in 2020, or back to Long Beach in 2020 because of COVID, my ultimate goal was I was going to have a powwow wall, my own mural in Long Beach. Like I needed to have a one wall in my city. And so I decided I was going to paint it at St. Anthony's. I wanted to go to St. Anthony's. I wanted to paint it at St. Anthony's. It was going to be dedicated to my art teacher. And so we went through a lot of different rounds of getting that to happen. And at the last minute, it ended up getting painted someplace else. But since then, I've been commissioned to do several other big walls in Long Beach. So my one goal of having one wall in Long Beach was surpassed. And now I have to find a new goal.
Nice. Well,
My story.
there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah, you
Yeah,
gave us a lot of great information there. So first off, I want to say is, do you want to say the name of the teacher or do you want to keep that a secret?
sure. Miss Stepanovich, she's the best art teacher in the planet, and she worked at St. Anthony's for many, many years. So she's inspired many people over the years, but she did retire this past year.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I got, we had the same class, and obviously I didn't have the epiphany that you did at the same class, but but you know what though, I can say to you to the point of, art, and I can see why you would think that that would be a really, really cool job because she comes to work every day and creates something with her students. So I can understand why that would be kind of a fun thing to do.
I feel like there was like always music playing, and it just seemed like a pretty mellow environment to spend your 8 hours a day hanging out with teenagers and making art. And once I did that myself, it really is the jam.
Yeah, Kate, she would play K Earth 101 oldie station. I remember that.
So we know
But
every word by heart.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So let's take your journey piece by piece, shall we? So you graduate St. Anthony's, and in the back of your head, you're like, well, I love art, but right now I'm kind of unsure if I can make a career out of it. So when you go to you said Marymount, you went to Marymount for did you
I went
graduate
to
from Marymount?
Marymount. I went to Marymount for 2 years, and then I transferred to Chico State, and I graduated from Chico State up in
Okay,
Northern California.
Northern California, right? Okay, so
Mhm.
you Marymount, which is a PV, not too far from St. Anthony's, and then you go to Chico State. Now, did you in your head did you think, you know what, I kind of want to go a little bit further away from school, away from parents, away from everything? Was that your
I
plan?
I did. I wanted to get out of the city, and I wanted to experience some nature. I wanted to go to Northern California or maybe even farther. I actually wanted to go to Oregon, but I was talked to staying in state. So Chico, I was looking at Chico, Humboldt, up in the farthest I can get in Northern California, and I decided on Chico.
Mm. So you were talking about getting out of the city. So you've always been into camping and nature and that type of thing?
I like trees, I like greenery, I like space.
Mm.
So yeah, my artwork is very inspired by nature and plants and foliage. And so yeah, I I feel at peace in nature.
Okay, so when you transferred to Chico to get that environment, um, in your head, what did you think you were going to do outside of Chico when you graduated? What was your goal at that point?
I always knew I was going to teach. It
Hmm.
was like when I was little, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a teacher. I knew that was going to be it. I knew after being at St. Anthony's, I wanted to teach art, but I was told by all the other voices that I would never get a job as an art teacher. I needed to have some safety and something to fall back on. So my dad was a special ed teacher, and so that's the direction I took. And I loved teaching special ed, but there was always the missing of the art.
Wow, it's funny is I knew your parents, I knew your dad, and I never knew that he was a special ed teacher. I actually didn't know what he did. I thought he was like a businessman, an entrepreneur. I
He
didn't.
was actually probably when you knew him, he was a psychologist, and then he retired from that, and he got bored in retirement. And so then he actually taught at Millikan. He taught like the severely disabled students at Millikan, and then he retired again. But it was kind of like a second career for him.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that. Well, learn something new. That's why when you do these podcasts, you learn, you ask questions you wouldn't ask if we were just having coffee. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the voices in your head saying that you couldn't make it as an art teacher. I mean, I don't understand why. What was the objections with being an art teacher? Because I think that that's kind of a stable position
Well,
in my head. I don't know.
that's at the time when I was leaving college and going into education, that's when the schools were cutting the arts. They're cutting music and art and theater. Luckily now, as of last year, California is putting all that back into schools. But I came into education at a tricky point where there was zero jobs available, and the art jobs that were available were taken by people like Ms. Stepanovich, who had been there for a very long time because it's a great job to have and they're not leaving until they retire. So I was kind of just waiting for my turn kind of thing and decided I can't wait forever. So I decided I needed a little backup plan.
And then what were you teaching when you got out of Chico then?
I taught special ed. So
Okay,
special ed
that's right,
middle
you
school
said
and
that.
high school.
Okay, so you got into special ed,
Yeah.
and did you at that point in time did you come back to Long Beach, or is that when you already did you go from Chico to Hawaii?
I actually taught in Inglewood. So I wasn't able to get a job in Long Beach Unified. So I taught for a charter school in Inglewood, and it was a school for specifically for kids that were emotionally disturbed and had severe behavior problems. And that was my first teaching experience. And it was probably the biggest learning experience of my life. I felt like if I could do that and I could teach those students, I could really teach anything. And it was true. I really learned how to like build rapport with teenagers and understand the ins and outs of their mentality and the things that were triggering them. And so that kind of did help me throughout my years as a teacher.
That had to be pretty stressful for you, coming out of school. You're in a position where yeah, you're in Inglewood and you're
Mm-hmm.
teaching kids special ed, a city that you're probably not too familiar with, probably didn't
Yeah.
know really the ins and outs of that city so much. So, talk to me about that learning curve on that first year.
That is a great word for a learning curve. I still was super excited to be this fresh new teacher that got to like make my bulletin boards and do all the fun things. And then first day, I'm like breaking up fights and like kids in the same gang in my classroom jumping over desks. And it was not what I expected at all. But luckily, there was a lot of staff there that knew what to expect. And so I learned a lot from the staff that had worked there for a while on being proactive and just, watching for triggers and knowing from the beginning of the day how everyone is feeling. But it was also a really fun experience. Maybe not fun, but like never a dull moment. You're never bored in those kind of situations, and there's good stories to tell. So, hey, good experience.
Did you feel like Michelle Pfeiffer?
A little bit. I heard the song in my head all the time.
I bet. So, you're in the middle of the school year. I mean, I would imagine like a month in, or not, maybe not even a month in. Were there doubts when you were driving home, going, "What in the heck am I doing?"
Where am I right now?
Yeah.
Yes, there were. There was some tears. There was coming home like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But the thing with teaching is that you have to do a lot of self-reflecting, and you come home at the end of every day and you reflect on the day and what went wrong, what went great, and then you just every day is a new day. And no matter what you're teaching, it's teaching is exhausting no matter what it is. So you just kind of have to find the positivity in it
Mhm.
and keep yourself motivated day to day. And that's what I had to do at that school.
When did you start to feel like a groove at that school, or did you ever feel a groove at that school?
Um, Once you maintain relationships with the staff and everyone's kind of working together, that
Mhm.
does help a lot. But it was hard to ever get in a groove because everything is very unexpected in those kind of situations or settings. So if you get into a groove, that's when problems arise, really. So, but what made me leave there is that when I left that school is when I went to Hawaii. And basically, I had never been to Hawaii. I had another teacher friend who said she had just gone to Hawaii and she saw all these schools that were on the beach, and I should apply. So I did. I was like, sure, whatever, I'll apply. And I got called like in a week, and they were basically like, how soon can you be here? We want to hire you. And I was like, I'm moving to Hawaii. So I packed up my life and got on a plane and didn't look back until 2020.
Crazy. So how long were you in Inglewood before you went to Hawaii?
I was there for 4 years.
Okay. Okay, so you were there a good amount of time.
Mhm.
So going to Hawaii, going, far away from home, talk to me about your emotions in that situation. I mean, you've never been to Hawaii. Obviously, you have a picture of Hawaii.
Mhm.
Hawaii is paradise. So obviously those are the great things, but you're away from your friends, your family. You're gonna have to start new. I mean, when
Mhm.
you get off of work, you don't have friends or family to hang with. You're going to have to make new friends and family and develop these relationships. So
Mhm.
talk to me about that learning curve for you.
Well, going to Hawaii, I would say it was very life-changing for me. One of the reasons I did leave Long Beach to move away from some things that were probably not the healthiest thing for me. So moving to Hawaii, did help me start to make better choices for myself and healthier choices. I was able to meet some good friends through school. So, like other teachers there's a lot of transplants in Hawaii. And so that was one good thing for me was that there are other people who don't feel as secure and are also looking for similar friendships. So I didn't have a hard time finding friends over there. And then another thing I did while I was there is I started a business and I started doing like a paint and sip company, kind of like paint night. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But I started one of those over there. So that was my way of going to people's houses and like meeting people and just like having a social life, but also it was part of my business. And that's kind of how I function as a person. I'm not the most social person. I'm very shy if I don't have a purpose to do something. So having that business which allowed me to be forced to go to other people's parties kind of helped me with my social abilities in Hawaii.
That's great. I want to pack into that a little bit. But it's funny is I haven't really talked to him since high school, and that's over 20 years ago. And I don't remember you being shy. That wasn't like I don't think that would be the first thought that I would have about you. So it's kind of interesting um, that's how you describe yourself now. Would you have described yourself in high school as shy?
No, it's funny because I was actually the captain of the cheer squad in high school. I was fine being in front of people, talking to people. I felt like I kind of bounced from friend group to friend group. But over the years, I've just developed a shyness. I am neurodivergent, so that's probably been a little bit of learning throughout the years of experiences with people and kind of protecting myself. It's probably not a greatest thing, but um, now I've found that I do better in smaller situations, and having small groups of friends is better than a bunch of acquaintances. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So talk to me about that paint and sip. I mean, because that takes planning and that takes gumption. You can't just go out and do that.
Mhm.
So talk to me when you got there. When did that start to come in your head, or was that a plan that you had when you were in Southern California as well?
No, I had never ever thought of it, but teaching in Hawaii, the pay there is pretty low in comparison to cost of living. So I had to have a second job. And at that point, I wasn't teaching art yet. I was still teaching special ed. So I wanted to find a way where I could find a creative outlet for myself. And I also have always had an entrepreneurial mindset. When I was actually in high school, my mom, who's an entrepreneur, she put me into a program in Long Beach. And it was starting your own business. And I was in high school and I did that kind of on the side. And I've always had that mentality where I'm kind of like a hustler. I'm always trying to like find ways to make money and doing things that I love to do. So I just felt like that was a perfect situation for me over there, and there wasn't anyone else doing that. So I kind of just started a website for myself and started advertising. And by the time I left Hawaii, it was, I was jamming. I actually had maybe like 5 or 6 people working for me there. And then I was also running it here in Long Beach.
Mm. Were you at the point where you could have just taken that and not even done the teaching anymore?
Yeah. But I loved teaching, and I was working finally when I was teaching art in Hawaii. I was working at one of the top schools in the state, and the kids there were just like amazing students where I really enjoyed going to work just to be with them and get to make art in the classroom with them. So it was I was very fulfilled. All my fire was fueled by teaching high school art. So it was just a balancing act, surviving living in Hawaii.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a shame that you say that you as a teacher, just as a teacher, you couldn't make ends meet. That's kind of a shame that that's the way, because what that does is that tells people, well, then I don't want to be a teacher, and
Yeah,
these great teachers might be in other careers when we should have them be teachers because they could be really
the
like a
best
great
teachers.
influence on the youth.
Mhm.
What was that?
I said they could be, there's some people out there that are like amazing teachers, but they just can't maintain,
Hmm.
especially like I'm single, so I don't have a second income. So you have to have something where you can maintain your living style. And for teachers, it's hard.
Yeah, geez. So you were there 12 years, and it sounds like you love what you were doing. You had a thriving business on the side. You were teaching. Now you mentioned 2020, so I know probably
That
what's coming.
dreaded year.
So COVID-19 hit, and that was in March, right? Around this time, actually,
Yep,
when it hit. So were you still in Hawaii teaching at
I
that point?
was. Yes, and my basically what happened, I was there in Hawaii. I had just painted for Powwow Hawaii in February. So I did a mural there in February. Our school shut down for spring break. Just we went on spring break and then it never reopened again. Basically, we just stayed. And so I was over there, like we were teaching virtually. But my mom lives in Long Beach. I was there by myself. The whole world, like we had no idea what was going on. It was such a scary time. So that's when I decided to rip off the Band-Aid and come back to Long Beach. And just that's where I've been ever since.
And if I can remember correctly, Hawaii was pretty strict about the COVID rules.
Yeah, they were
So was it
very strict.
hard? Was it hard to leave, or was it hard to leave, or?
It wasn't hard to leave. It was such a crazy, that day was such a crazy experience because I took my car to the car dealership and sold it. I got into a taxi. I went to the airport with like my 2 suitcases of life with me, basically, and got on the plane. And I was the only person on the plane. I had a private flight from Hawaii to Long Beach, basically. And that was like such an eerie experience. But other than that, there was no problem getting out.
What month was that when you took that flight?
May,
May. Okay.
May of
So you spent
2020.
okay. So you spent a few months, like you said, you spent a few months in Hawaii by yourself,
Because
isolated.
I was trying to stay there. I wanted to keep teaching online, and I wanted to be able to come to Long Beach and be teaching virtually because I was teaching virtually, but they wouldn't allow that. So I kind of just stayed there, hoping like we didn't know how long this is going to last. But then it just got to the point where it didn't make sense for me to be there and my mom to be here. So here I am.
So did you so May, did you just finish out the school year? Is that what you did there?
I took a leave of absence. So
Oh,
I
okay.
ended up taking a leave of absence, hoping that they were going to go back in person. But then I ended up getting a job here for an online charter school. So that was like a perfect situation for me at the moment because I could be home, I could be working. So that's where I've been ever since.
So your plan was you were just gonna come home for a bit, come to Long Beach for a bit, hang with your mom, and
Mhm.
then when the world would open back up, your plan was to come back to Hawaii or no?
Yeah,
It
I
was.
planned to go back.
You had plans, but it sounded like though you sold your car, and I imagine you gave up your
I
apartment
gave
or
up my
what?
apartment. I kept paying for my apartment for 2 months after I left, and rent in Hawaii is not cheap.
No.
So after that, then my landlords, they like held it for me for a few months, thinking I was going to come back or hoping I was going to come back. And then it just got to the point where I'm not coming back anytime soon. And the crazy thing is when I moved to Hawaii 12 years earlier, I had gone for a year. I said, I'm just going to go for a year. I'm just going to like change of scenery and come back. And then I just kept adding on years, adding on years. So the whole time I was there, I never bought furniture. I never like I was always living in like furnished places because I always had the plan to come back to Long Beach. But when I actually was forced to come back to Long Beach, I wanted to stay in Hawaii. But funny how life twists and turns.
Yeah, absolutely. So you came back here, you found a job at the charter school, which you're still at today.
Mhm.
So first off, I wanted to ask you this question. Powwow, is that an acronym for something?
No, it's actually they started it. The person who started it, Jasper Wong, it was started out of after like comic books. So Pow, he wanted like the impact.
Hmm,
But since then, they've actually changed the organization's name to Worldwide Walls for PC reasons. So it's now called like Long Beach Walls. It's not called Long Beach Powwow anymore.
okay. Okay. I was curious to know if that was that. Okay. So then you're in Long Beach, kind of you're in the midst of COVID, really can't do too much at this point. You're doing online work,
Mhm.
but yeah, you still have that itch for art, and
Yes.
you said you wanted to do a mural at St. Anthony's. So
Mhm.
when did that start to the wheels started turning in that, and then also the paint and sip. Were you still doing the paint and sip, or did you give that up because of
I
C?
had stopped doing the paint and sip during 2020 just because people touching things and it was just a little too sticky. So I basically stopped that. But part of being a powwow artist is like the goal for artists or street artists is to get the name to be a powwow artist, basically, or a worldwide artist. Because then once you do that, then you get to jump from city to city and they fly you places, you paint a mural, you get to experience the city. Powwow artists don't get paid. It's all volunteer, but you just get to travel around and make your art. So to me, like that was like the ultimate. And like, who would not love to do that?
Mhm.
And then when it was coming to Long Beach, I'm like, all right, well, I need to have a wall in my city. So if I knew that I was going to have a wall in my city, but if I got to pick anywhere that my mural would be, it would be at St. Anthony's. And it was going to be painted on the gym right under where it says Home of the Saints. And the title of the mural was Home because I was coming home, basically.
Mm.
So there was this whole story connected with it. But it ended up not working out. And so it's actually that same mural that's dedicated to Miss Stepanovich. It's painted on the side of the breakfast bar on Atlantic and Ocean Boulevard.
That's great. Well, so at Saint, what did you do? Did you just, I would imagine probably started with Miss Stefanovic, and then she probably got you in touch with the principal. Is that how that
It
worked?
was
Or
actually the president at the time, or the prior president at the time. She had wanted powwow to be involved at St. Anthony's, and I knew that through other people. So I went to her and said, hey, I'm a powwow artist. I can connect you. And so we started going through that process. And during that time, they had a switch of presidency, and the new president, who is not no longer the president there was a little bit of stickiness.
Okay.
So it didn't
So where
happen.
what? So you said on the gym wall. So was that on Sixth Street, or was it on? Is that where?
It's
Okay, so in the parking lot where
mhm,
the students park, that's where the mural was going to be.
mhm. And there is actually talk of, I know right now they're doing construction over there that's going to be ending at the end of the summer. And I know they're talking about painting something over there because we had also talked, Clark Field, when that got finished, we had talked about putting some murals over there too. So there's definitely talk at St. Anthony's for some murals. It's just taking a little bit of time,
Does it
but
help that
it'll get
you're
done.
alumni?
It will help.
Okay, it will help. Okay, good, good. All right. Well, that's good. That's good to know. So and then you instead did it on, you said it's called the Breakfast Bar?
Yeah, that mural, the one that's the St. Anthony's mural, it's in St. Anthony's colors. And it's on the Breakfast Bar. It's on Atlantic and Ocean.
Is that
And
the same company that owns the one on Redondo and Fourth? Is that the
yeah.
same? Okay. Okay.
So the one on Atlantic was the original one.
Okay.
But the wall that I was given, it was like 3 times bigger than the one that was at St. Anthony's. So that was a little bit of logistical that I had to, it was a learning curve. But it was like, that's the thing about being a muralist is every mural is a different learning curve. There's always something crazy that you're going to have to do. And so that one, like, even though at first I was like, oh my gosh, this is like way bigger than I thought it was going to be. I actually had some really cool learning experiences on that wall. And it was really cool because Miss Stepanovich came and brought some students, and the students painted on the wall and like they wrote notes underneath the paint and stuff. So it ended up being how I envisioned.
That's awesome. So, do you have a crew that, like, with this powwow or Long Beach Walls? Do you have like a crew that helps you, and you're kind of like the director, the art director, so to speak?
Yes, well, with Long Beach Walls, it's all volunteers. So when that week comes, it's actually going to be coming in June this year to Long Beach. They put shout outs on the internet, all over social media, asking for volunteers. So that one's all volunteer based. But when I do commission pieces, I do have a crew, and it's the same people that I use all the time. They're graffiti artists. I have a driver, so someone who drives a lift for me, even though I'm certified, I can drive for myself. But it's just, there's a lot going on up there that you want to be painting and not having to worry about safety and like the people on the ground. So, yeah, there's a crew, and I could never do any of it without them. They're like, they keep me sane, they keep me safe, they keep it fun. So, there's 3 guys that help me.
It's interesting that your murals are in an urban area, but your painting is about nature.
And like all my painting are like really bright and colorful, pretty things in the middle of like the concrete jungle. But it's kind
Well,
of cool the juxtaposition of it.
yeah, although downtown Long Beach is pretty colorful, so I think it kind of fits
And
the.
if you think about, so now that we're talking about Long Beach walls, if you think about a lot of the murals and stuff and the color that's downtown, about 85% of the murals in downtown Long Beach have been done by Long Beach Walls or Powwow. So if you think of that's all been done like volunteer wise, usually, a lot of people don't know the cost of a mural. So the cost of painting a mural is between 10 and 20,000 for one mural.
Mhm.
So the organization is basically donating that many murals to the city of Long Beach every year and repainting them. And there's a group of people, I'm included, that go around and keep them clean. And if they get graffitied, we go and make them pretty again and just trying to keep the city clean. So it's quite the scene on the background that a lot of people don't know about.
I love that. So you talk about your hustle mentality, your entrepreneur mentality. So what are you looking to do to make this make it profitable for you?
Well, luckily for me, I've been able to get paid to do my murals, and like I said, you get some good money doing that. So I want to keep doing that. Eventually, I'm gonna hit an age point where it's not going to be as easy anymore. So I think my next endeavor, which I've started to do actually, is like art consultation. So basically, when people want murals or they want public art, because in the city of Long Beach, every new building that goes up, and you can picture downtown, all the development that's going up, every new building, they have to hire a local artist. 1% of the building cost goes to the artist. So there's tons of need for muralists and artists right now because there's so much development going on. But the business owners and developers don't know the logistics of putting murals on buildings, like the insurance requirements and all the things, all the red tape. So people like me, I would like to help them and get paid to do that. And so that's kind of what's next.
So being a consultant is what you're saying. And then you would probably be able to hire some of these artists that you work with or have a rapport with
Right.
as
Be
well.
a little bit of a gatekeeper, because that's
Exactly.
definitely thing in an art world is the gatekeeping, and in Long Beach we need some good gatekeepers.
I think that is great. So, you as a young woman in high school thinking, wow, art, I don't know how I can make an art living doing this. And now here you are, and that's all you do is live and breathe art and getting paid to do it, whether it
It's
be,
pretty cool. It's like it is when I think back, like my 15-year-old self would be pretty proud and very surprised because, like I said, I never pictured, like when I hear people say, like, oh, I'm a professional artist, like that was so not what I ever envisioned. But to say it now, like I definitely have what's the thing where you don't believe it, the something syndrome. You don't believe it's actually
oh,
happened to you.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Like when people want to do interviews or like things like that, I'm like, okay, but it's pretty cool to be able to say, like, yeah, I'm a professional working artist. So that's
Well, that leads me to a question then. What advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
to not give up, to have keep up with the perseverance, especially with the art world, because that there's a lot of people that don't have the perseverance of what it takes. And it is like the starving artist, blood, sweat, and tears. It does take a lot of that. But if you really have passion and you really want to see your art on the side of a building, like it's like the coolest feeling to drive past and being like, yep, I painted that. Or like, it is a really cool feeling. And it's even a better feeling when you're up there and like people are driving past and thanking you and honking at you. And like you actually feel like you're really maybe not making a difference, but at least like you're beautifying the city a little bit. And, and people will appreciate it. That feels good.
Leads me to a question that's kind of similar to that is what advice would you give these young artists that want to make a career out of it and having that mindset? Because you can't be alone thinking that, right? Well, there are a lot of artists that go, oh, I want to be an artist. And then you
Mhm.
have the voices, like you said, going, well, how am I going to be able to pay the bills being an artist? So, what advice would you give to a young artist that wants to be a full-time artist?
Find your style. That's really important because there's lots of people who can paint things really well and make them look like a picture, a photo. But that's not really the kind of art that's selling right now. So find a style that works for you that you enjoy doing. Practice, practice, practice. You can never practice enough, and get yourself out there as much as possible. Put yourself out there, even like for people like me, where I have to force myself to go to the social things and do the social things. It's really important if you actually, in the art world, want people to see it's about work ethic and perseverance. And when people see that you're willing to keep coming back and you're willing to put in the time, they're willing to help you out and help build you up. So it's really important in our world.
Yeah, so what would keep you going when you talked about being in these awkward situations where you had to promote yourself and you're like, I don't want, I'm nervous, I don't want to do that. What pushed you through that anxiety? Because that's very important.
The thought of getting home in my pajamas. No.
The thought of getting home, the faster you do this, the faster you can be home in your
Yeah.
pajamas. Okay.
Just like you meet some really cool people in those kind of situations, and there's always a story to tell at the end of the night, like, oh, I met an artist that you really look up to, or an agent, or just like someone coming up to you and telling you, like, oh, I really love your work, and you're like, how do you even know? Like those kind of moments do feel good, and even though like the like getting myself geared up to go stand there and put on the hi, it at the end of the night, it really is rewarding. And so I just have to remind myself that. Um,
Well, do you
yeah.
feel good after you do it? Like you put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, and after it's done, after you do the event, do you feel proud of yourself?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's something I'm working on for sure. It's like, it's definitely something I'm going through right now is working on getting myself more social, figuring out the next steps of the conversation, because that's something that I struggle with. So just working on myself right now and making myself a little bit more comfortable in social situations.
Well, we're all a work in progress till the day we die. So that's
True.
what
It's
we're
true.
trying to do, right?
True.
Yeah, cool. So you're nominated to be a local Long Beach artist. Tell us about that.
I am. I'm right now, there's a contest going on for the absolute best of Long Beach, and I'm nominated in two categories. I'm nominated for best artist and or best local artist and best mural. I just finished, well, actually, not just, in August, I finished a mural series. It was an artist call basically for a brand new building on PCH, and it's a senior housing facility, and it was a call for four artists. And so we all put in our design concepts and things like that, and I ended up getting chosen for three of the four walls, which was really cool and unexpected. But those are right now being recognized as some of the best in Long Beach. So go vote. It's called the
How can they
Dreamers.
vote? How can they do
It's
that?
if you go on Absolute Best of Long Beach, you can search that, or I would just say search Absolute Best of Long Beach and you can find the link. And there's tons of categories, all the restaurants, basically every category there is in Long Beach. You can go vote for your favorites. And you can vote until the 15th. So you have a few more days to keep voting.
All right, I'll make sure I get this podcast out ASAP so that people can vote. It's funny, it's like I didn't know anything about this, Bill, and when we were talking, you said, "Hey, yeah, look at this thing," and I did, and I voted for you and such. But then it was cool to see all this other stuff that was on there. And
Uh-huh.
one disappointment was, "Hey, podcast, it's a Long Beach thing was not nominated." Wow.
Oh, no. So that can be a goal for you next year.
That's right. That's a goal for me next year. But there was a lot of cool categories, a lot of things that I would never have thought to vote for. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm gonna vote
Yeah.
for all this stuff.
And another cool thing too is that like when you're like thinking of like, oh, I really want a good restaurant or a new place, or like you're looking for a dentist or something like that, you go on that list and like it's a great way to find things that you've never heard of really in Long Beach. So it's kind of cool.
That's great. That's actually a good segue to one of my last questions. Since you are a Long Beach pro, where are the best places to eat in Long Beach?
Ah, that's a hard one. There's so many good restaurants.
You can name a few.
Um, oh, well, my favorite, I love Amatoli. That's obvious. And Ubuntu is great for lunch.
These two places I've never heard of. I've never heard of
Amatoli's on Third, and they have
what
it's
on third?
Amatoli. It's on Third, and it's like it's been nominated over and over for like the best Mediterranean food. So good. Try it. Thai food. My favorite Thai is Manao on Seventh.
Okay, we're on the same page there on
So
Broadway.
good.
Love that place.
So good. There's tons of good burgers around town, but I'm a total Grubhub girl, so I I Grubhub a lot.
Well, so what's your favorite burger place to go to in Long Beach?
Oh, Tam's Burger. Gotta represent Tam's Burger. It's like
Sam's
the
Burger
old,
off of what is that? Off of Anaheim and like
like Anaheim and Alamitos. It's kind of
close
the same as
close
like
to St.
Louis
Anthony.
Burger. Yeah, it's the old go-to.
Wow, I haven't been to Tams, and that wasn't even the Tams I would go to. I would actually go to the one in Linwood. But yeah,
So
yeah.
good. They have the best French fries of life.
If I can remember correctly, they did have good fries. So Tams, okay, all right. I'll have to. I've driven past that 10 million times since high school, and I've never stopped. So maybe I'm
What's
gonna
your
have to
favorite
stop.
restaurant
My favorite burger place or my
or
favorite?
any restaurant in Long Beach?
So well, if we're gonna go burger, I'll go restaurants. But if we're gonna go burger, especially burger, believe it or not, Simsey's has a great burger on Second Street. I
Okay.
really enjoy their burger there.
Okay.
Now, if we're gonna go Italian, Vina and Cucina. Have you been there? Off of
Hmm.
it's off of Norris Way. It's almost in Lakewood.
Okay.
It's kind of like Carson and Lakewood Boulevard, Thirsty Isle, and then there's a little shopping center
Yeah, yeah.
behind that.
Hmm.
It's in there, and then also my favorite Chinese restaurant, LV's, is in that. Is across the street from there on Norris Way.
Huh.
That is tremendous Chinese food right
I'll
there.
have to
So
check out both of those places.
yeah, absolutely. And then Mexican, I guess, would be Los Compadres is probably
That's a good
my
one.
go-to
Hmm.
my go-to spot. So, um, yeah, I know by you got the Crooked Duck. Have you been there?
Crooked Duck. We have my favorite Mexican is Ponchos, which is right there on PCH.
Yeah,
So
you have to have cash there.
it's
Yeah.
true.
So you
Bring your
go there, you
cash,
have to have cash. Yes,
but
Ponchos. I
it's
haven't been
cheap,
there.
so you don't need a lot of cash. You get like out the door for under 20 bucks.
Still to this day. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back then. I
yeah,
haven't
it's
been
like
since
the
high
old
school.
classic. It's exactly the same. Same waitresses, same menus, everything.
Wow, man, I haven't been there since I went with my stepdad and mom all the time in high school, and I kind of stopped going. Not because I didn't like it, I really did, but I think because of I didn't carry cash as much. I
Yeah,
think that's probably why. But I'm gonna have to go to the ATM and then head to Ponchos.
get some tacos.
Absolutely. Well, Dre, it was awesome catching up with you. I'm so
Well,
glad that we were able to talk. I mean, it's crazy that we haven't really spoken in so long. I mean, I've followed you
yeah, I don't
on
think it's
social
going to
media.
be as long again. I have a feeling that we're going to see each other soon.
I hope so. I hope so. Actually, I don't live that far from you, so yeah.
Well, thanks for the invite. It was cool to be invited to do this, and always a pleasure seeing familiar faces that you haven't seen in a long time.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a Long Beach thing.
Long Beach.